What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since I've put out a video. Been very busy, no excuses. But here, now it's a new year and I wanted to do a quick ownership update now that I've had my G80 M3 for about 6 months now. Let me first start off by apologizing for the video quality of this video. My main camera, I plugged it in, charged it up, and then when I pulled it out this morning, realized that I left the switch to on, so of course the battery was dead, so I had to go with my backup camera here. So we're just going to make do with that today. Alright, but with that all said, let's go ahead and jump into the main content of this video. But first, let's get a cold start on the M3. Alright, so to start off with, this isn't going to be what I'd call like a full review. Just because I feel like it's kind of hard to review your own car because you're just so used to everything. So rather than do that, I'm just going to talk about what the ownership experience has been like and share kind of some of my favorite things about the car. So like I said, I've had this car for about 6 months. I do have the X-Drive competition model, so 503 horsepower. And given BMW's track record, I'd say it's probably likely it's a little bit underrated on the power too. So I'd say number one thing I like about this car is it feels like a lot smaller car than it is. I mean, it's a pretty big family sedan. I can fit my kids in the back with ease. They got plenty of room back there. So the great thing about this is you can have your sports car and your family car all in one vehicle. You don't have to maintain two different vehicles, which is a nice plus. And for this being a fairly big four-door family sedan, it's really zippy. It's easy to get in and out of lanes. It feels, like I said, like a lot smaller car than it is. Now, I drove a F90 M5 competition recently, and I can't imagine, in the interior it feels like a little bit bigger car, not a lot. The back seat seems like it has a little bit more leg room, but not by a wide margin. But I'd have to say, compared to this, not that drove poorly, but compared to this, that thing felt like a boat. As far as any issues with the car, none so far. Like I said, 6 months, about 3,000 miles on it. Only time I've taken it in is for the 1,200 mile break-in service. Got the engine oil change from the factory oil at that point. And they also do, as part of that service, they do the rear diff oil change. At that time, it was on back order and they didn't have any in stock, so they couldn't do it at the time I got the engine oil done. But a couple weeks later, they did get it back in stock and took it back in and got it done. It was really quick. So other than that, haven't had to take it in. No issues to speak of with the car so far, which is nice. If you guys go back to my X3M videos, remember right after I got that, the head unit went out and spent a couple months waiting for a replacement. So knock on wood, no big issues like that, or no even really minor issues. Now, the other thing I'm going to say I loved about this car next is just the looks of it. And I think BMW's done a really great job. I know a lot of people have strong feelings about the grille, but to me it looks really great. All of the lines are really sharp. They did a really good job on the front end. The back end looks just as good. What really sets us apart from other G80s that I've seen just a handful in person, but this having the individual frozen dark gray color really sets it apart. It really makes the body lines look good. I have to admit, when the car was on the way, I did have some anxiety about just the matte paint, because it's different. It's a little bit more involved with the care as far as the paint goes and what you have to do as far as maintenance. Now, one thing is, and it's not a problem for me because I hand wash my vehicles, but you absolutely cannot take the frozen paint to a car wash and just run it through a car wash, even if it's the touchless one, because they're they either recommend you don't use soap at all. The dealership I got it from told me just use water, but I ended up getting a special soap made just for matte paint, and that's what I use when I wash it, and it's worked really well. As far as paint protection, and especially if you're going with the matte paint, I did this, and I would recommend it to anybody else who asks. I got paint protection film. I got XPEL Stealth covering the whole front end, so the hood, the bumper, the side fenders, and the mirrors, they're all covered in XPEL. Which, if you're going to go with the matte paint, I would highly recommend that, just to keep it looking factory fresh. Because if you drive around the highway a lot, you get those little rock chips. They're really going to stand out on the matte paint because they're going to be like little white dots, especially if you have a darker matte paint like this one. So other than the paint protection film, I also used I got this paint protection kit made by Dr. Beasley's. This was recommended by a lot of YouTube videos I saw of like detailers, and even it sounded like BMW recommended as well. They have a kit for doing like a wash, and then they have this little paint protection stuff. It's like it would be equivalent to a ceramic coat for a glossy paint, but it's made specifically for matte paint. So they have a paint protection kit. I went through and applied that. Doesn't really change. It doesn't like change the sheen of the paint or anything. And from what I can tell, doing washes, it makes it a little easier to keep things clean. So would also recommend the extra step of doing that as well. It's really easy to apply. I've done ceramics on my I've done ceramic coatings on my other cars, and this was even easier than that. So really easy install. Makes a big difference as far as just kind of maintenance washes and stuff goes. So the next thing I'm going to say I love about this car is the performance. Now, I've had this S58 engine in the X-Ram as well as the same 8-speed transmission, and I have to say, just BMW's really nailed it with this platform. And from what I understand, it's a lot more reliable than the old platform that they had for the F80s. So this car is very fast. It's very fun to drive fast. It's also very fun on if you can find a nice curvy back road, just because of how much grip it gets. And I have to imagine if you're not on a track, you're not coming anywhere near to the limits of this car, because especially with the X-Drive, and I'd have to imagine the rear-wheel drive would do pretty well as well. To push the button, you can change this to rear-wheel drive. I have to say I don't do that all that often because I like more grip, the better. So the grip this gets is insane, and you can tell this car is doing a lot for you. It gives you the option of turning all that off if you want. That's another great thing about this car, is just how dynamic it is, because it gives you so many options for different settings and how you want to drive the car. And the other nice thing is, if I'm going through if I'm going through the school pickup line or something, or just in a parking lot, I don't want this thing to be super loud and aggressive, so I just push the button so everything is in comfort mode, and then it just seems like a normal 3 Series at that point. So on my spec, it did not come with the carbon bucket seats. Sometimes I kind of wish it would have, just because I see a lot of videos on them and they look really good. I don't know that I've ever actually seen the carbon buckets in person, but I'd have to imagine, from the back, they're pretty impressive. Now, comfort-wise, I've heard mixed things. I've heard some people say, as a bigger person, I wouldn't fit in it very well, especially with broad shoulders and stuff. I'd be curious to try them out sometime, but I can say that these seats, the sports seats, are extremely comfortable. They're heated and cooled. No complaints as far as these seats go. I feel like I could take this on a road trip and be very comfortable in these seats. So let's talk about market value on these cars. So recently, for the first time since these have been released, and they came out way back in 2021, The thing is, now if you go into a dealership and you try and get an allocation, you're still waiting. I was told 12 to 18 months by my dealership. I played around with the idea of ordering a 2023. Those come with the new curb screen instead of this integrated dash like I have in my car. Wanted to check that out. I've seen a couple of the. I haven't seen an M3 with the curved dash, but I've seen other models with that, and it's pretty cool. So played around with the idea of ordering another one because for a while there, you get these, drive them for a year or so, and then be able to sell them for approximately what you bought them for. Now with the market changing, I'm not sure that's particularly true. So my local dealership, I saw they've recently, here in the last few months, taken a couple in on trade. I believe they were both 2021s. I take that back. I think one was a 2021, one was a 2022. And they've actually sat there on the lot, and I'd have to imagine it has a lot to do with interest rates too. But they've sat there on the lot, and they've had to lower the prices on those quite a bit. So I don't think the market on these are in my area quite as hot as they were. I think you go back in time 6 months, you could buy one and go down the street sell it for more than you paid for it. But I think those days might be behind us for now. Maybe that'll change sometime in the next upcoming year, but hard to say. But it doesn't change the supply issue if you want to order a new one. From what it sounds like from the dealerships I've talked to, it's still a really long waiting time. So how does driving this compare to the X3M that I had for 6 months as a daily driver? I'd have to say this is quite a bit more driver focused. You sit lower. That it didn't handle badly, but just the seating position on this one, I like it a lot more. It just feels faster because it's smaller, sits lower. I'd also have to say it's quite a bit smoother ride. I feel like the suspension on this one goes over bumps better than what the X3M even did, which is kind of surprising to me. But I feel like if you put this one in comfort mode, it's quite a bit smoother ride than what you got out of the X3M. I felt like no matter what mode I had this suspension in on that one, it was still pretty much the same. It didn't really make a difference. So yeah, I'd have to say I enjoy this quite a bit more over the X3M. The other nice thing is you really don't see, even now, you don't see many G80s. So it's a pretty, especially in my area, it's a pretty rare car. When I take it in to get the paint protection done, from the sounds of it, it got a ton of attention from just people coming into their shop, which can be good and bad. So like I mentioned in my previous video, this was definitely in the dream car category for me. If it wasn't, I probably wouldn't have given up the the Raptor I had before, which I loved. But this was a really rare opportunity, and if I could go back and do it again, I'd do exactly the same and get the M3 again. So yeah, no plans of moving on anytime soon. Recently added a few accessories, which I think I'll make a video just kind of going over those separately and make that a separate topic so I can cover that fully. But yeah, overall, ownership of this has been great. It's fun for me to just take out and drive by myself, and at the same time, me and my family take it out all the time to get ice cream or drinks, or we'll even take it to get groceries and stuff sometimes. So very, very pleased with this. BMW just totally knocked it out of the park with this G80 platform, as I know a lot of the other owners can attest to. So the matte paint hasn't been as big a deal as I thought it was going to be, which is a plus because it looks that good. All right, guys, so that's gonna wrap things up for today's video. As always, appreciate you guys watching. Now, as you know, it's a new year, so we're gonna have some big updates to the channel coming soon. We did get a new family vehicle. I've actually had it for a few months now, but I haven't shared it yet on the channel. It's a monster, and it's going to be coming on the channel soon. So excited to share that with you guys. Be on the lookout for that video. Thanks as always for joining me. I'll catch you guys in the next one.